Before you close this tab, I need you to think about something. Remember that moment when you felt like something shifted in your relationship? Not an obvious fight, not a dramatic blow up, just a quiet sense that the woman sitting across from you at breakfast had become someone you barely recognized. And whenever you tried to bring it up, somehow the conversation ended with you apologizing for even mentioning it. If any of that sounds familiar, keep reading, because what I'm about to explain could help you understand what actually happened and prevent it from happening again. What I want to talk about today are 4 specific phrases, 4 things women say that sound completely reasonable on the surface, but actually signal something much deeper happening underneath. I'm going to break down what these phrases really mean, why they work so effectively, and most importantly, how to recognize what's actually happening based on behavior rather than words alone. Let me be clear from the start. This isn't about villainizing anyone. This is about understanding patterns. Because here's what I've learned after years of working with couples and talking to men who've been through devastating breakups. The guys who get hurt the worst aren't careless men. They're good men, thoughtful men who invested deeply and believed what they were told. And that trust, that willingness to take words at face value is exactly what left them vulnerable. But here's something important I want you to keep in mind as we go through this. There's one simple principle that protects you from all 4 of these phrases. One shift in perspective that changes everything. I'll share it with you before we finish, but first, you need to understand what each phrase actually means. Let me start with some context. These 4 phrases don't appear randomly. They follow a progression. They start subtle, almost invisible, and gradually intensify. Each one builds on the last until the man in the relationship finds himself completely disoriented, second-guessing everything he thought he knew. And the hardest part is that by the time the truth becomes obvious, months or even years have passed. And almost always he'll wonder why he didn't see it sooner. So I want you to read this all the way through, not just to learn the phrases themselves, but to understand the sequence they follow. Because recognizing the pattern is just as crucial as recognizing the individual pieces. Let's start with the first one. Phrase number 1 is this: I've just been really tired lately. This is probably the most common phrase you'll hear when emotional distance first starts appearing. And it's incredibly effective because it sounds so perfectly reasonable. Everyone gets exhausted. Work becomes overwhelming. Life gets complicated. When you hear this, your natural instinct is to be understanding. Give her space. Don't add pressure. You think you're being supportive. But here's what most men don't realize. When a woman genuinely loves you, exhaustion doesn't create distance. It creates a need for closeness. When she's truly overwhelmed, she still wants your presence, your comfort, the feeling of safety you provide. Maybe not intense romance every single evening, but connection, warmth, the simple reassurance of being near someone who matters. Real love doesn't turn off physical closeness. It seeks it, even when energy is low. So when you notice she suddenly has 0 interest in any kind of physical connection, when weeks pass without meaningful touch, when even casual affection like holding hands or sitting close feels like it bothers her, that's not exhaustion. That's something else entirely. Her need for intimacy didn't disappear, it redirected. And here's the psychological truth behind this. When a woman starts emotionally investing in someone else, even if nothing physical has happened yet, her body responds. Physical intimacy with you begins to feel wrong. Not wrong because she's betraying you necessarily, but wrong because her emotional center has shifted. The other person, whether it's someone new or an old connection that's been rekindled, becomes the focal point. And you become the complication. Being close to you starts feeling like a betrayal of that new emotional bond she's building. So she pulls away. And when you notice and ask about it, she gives you the explanation that's easiest to accept: tiredness. Let me give you a real example. I knew a man named Robert who came to me completely confused. His partner of 4 years had been withdrawing for months. Every time he tried to initiate any kind of closeness, she had the same response. I'm exhausted. Work is draining me. I just need rest. And Robert believed her completely. It made perfect sense. She had a demanding job, long hours, real pressure, but then Robert started noticing things that didn't quite fit. She was waking up early to go running, something she hadn't done in years. Her wardrobe changed. She started wearing clothes that were more stylish, more put together. Her social media showed someone who looked energized and confident. But at home, with him, she seemed drained and distant. That contradiction finally made Robert realize the painful truth. She wasn't tired. She was tired of him. And her energy, her attention, her emotional investment was going somewhere else. Here's what I need you to understand about this first phrase. Watch for the contrast. If her words say exhaustion, but her actions show renewed energy everywhere except with you, that gap between what she says and what she does is your answer. Pay attention to it. Now let's move to the second phrase, because this one works hand in hand with the first. Phrase number 2 is this. I really need to focus on myself right now. When you first hear this, it probably sounds like the healthiest thing a partner could say. Finally, she's prioritizing her own growth and healing. And honestly, you might even feel good about it. She's working on herself. This could strengthen the relationship. And I want to be fair here. Sometimes this phrase is completely genuine. Real personal growth, real healing, and it truly does strengthen relationships when it's authentic. But here's the critical difference. When a woman genuinely wants to grow within a healthy relationship, she brings you along. She shares what she's discovering. She talks about what she's learning and asks what you think. She reads something insightful and says, let's talk about how this applies to us. Real growth inside a committed relationship is shared. It brings two people closer together. But when she needs to focus on herself in complete isolation, when every attempt you make to be part of her journey gets shut down, when your presence is treated like an obstacle to her development, that's not self-improvement. That's self-separation. She's creating a version of herself that doesn't include you, so that when she eventually leaves emotionally or physically, she can tell herself and everyone else that she simply outgrew the relationship. And here's the part that makes this particularly painful. She'll make you feel guilty for wanting to stay connected. She'll say you don't support her growth. She'll call you needy or controlling. She'll accuse you of holding her back. Your completely natural desire to remain involved in her life gets reframed as evidence that you're the problem. She's turned personal development into a weapon against your relationship. I'll give you another example. A guy named Marcus told me his story. His girlfriend started talking about healing old wounds, finding her authentic self, all the language of growth and transformation. Marcus completely supported it. He even paid for workshops and courses she wanted to take. But then he started noticing something strange. Every workshop was something she attended alone. Every book she read was private. She had nothing she wanted to share. When Marcus suggested they read the same book so they could discuss it together, she became defensive. This is my journey, not ours. And whenever Marcus asked simple questions about what she was learning, she accused him of invading her space, of not respecting her independence. Meanwhile, her journey included frequent trips out of town, late evenings at events he wasn't invited to, long online conversations with new friends he'd never met. Marcus eventually realized what was really happening. She wasn't healing her connection with him. She was building the emotional separation she needed to justify leaving. So here's the question you need to ask. Does her growth bring you closer or push you further apart? Does she include you in what she's discovering, or does every step forward require you to step back? Real personal development strengthens love. Fake personal development makes distance easier to justify. And remember, these phrases follow a pattern because the third one is where things shift in a dangerous direction. It's the one that makes you the problem. Phrase number 3 is this: you're being controlling. This is psychologically the most damaging of the 4 because it doesn't just deflect attention from her behavior, it rewires how you see yourself. Here's how it works. You ask a completely normal question. Where were you last night? Who are you texting during dinner? Basic questions that any caring partner might ask. And instead of a simple answer, you get an attack. Suddenly, the issue isn't what she was doing. The issue is your insecurity, your jealousy, your controlling tendencies. Listen carefully to this. When a woman has nothing to hide, her natural response to questions is clarity. She explains, she reassures, she offers details without you having to press for them. Transparency feels easy when you're telling the truth, but when someone is hiding something, every question feels threatening. Every answer risks exposure. So instead of answering, she attacks. She shifts the entire conversation away from her behavior and onto your character. Let me tell you about Daniel. He noticed his partner hiding her phone screen one evening. He asked casually, no anger in his voice, "Who's messaging you this late?" Her response was immediate and intense. "Why are you always checking on me? I can't breathe around you. You're so possessive. This is toxic. You're insecure." Within minutes, Daniel found himself apologizing for asking a simple question. Months later, he discovered she'd been building an emotional relationship with a coworker, the same person she'd been texting that night. The explosion wasn't emotion, it was strategy, a way to shut down questions before they led anywhere revealing. If you're reading this and feeling that recognition, that uncomfortable familiarity, stay with me, because understanding this pattern changes everything. Here's what makes this third phrase so destructive over time. It conditions you. After weeks or months of being called controlling for asking basic questions, you stop asking. You tell yourself, maybe I am being too insecure. Maybe I need to relax. And that internal silence, that self-doubt, is exactly what allows things to continue unchecked. Your questions aren't the problem. The secrets are the problem. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise. Now let's talk about the fourth phrase, because this one is the most sophisticated of all. Phrase number 4 is this: I think we should just be completely honest with each other. On the surface, this sounds like everything you've wanted. Real transparency, open communication. You hear it and think, finally, this could fix everything. But here's what's actually happening. She's not proposing mutual honesty. She's establishing selective honesty. And that means she gets to ask you anything. Dig into your past, your vulnerabilities, your fears, while carefully controlling exactly what she reveals about herself. It looks like openness, but it's actually control. After making this announcement about radical honesty, she becomes intensely curious about everything. Your childhood, your regrets, your insecurities, past relationships. And you open up because you believe this is what real intimacy looks like. But when you ask questions in return, when you want to know about the new person she's been mentioning, when you ask why she seemed distant, when you wonder why her phone is suddenly password protected, the tone completely changes. I thought we agreed not to be controlling. Why can't you just trust me? I've told you so much and it's still not enough. She uses your own desire for honesty against you. I heard this story from a man named Vincent. His partner wanted to know everything about his history. First heartbreak, deepest fears, most embarrassing moments. And Vincent shared all of it because she made it feel like true intimacy. But whenever he asked even simple questions in return, who were you with after work? Can I see the message that upset you? She would dodge and deflect and accuse. You're too suspicious. Why can't you trust me? I've shared so much and it's never enough for you. While Vincent was completely transparent, she was hiding the one thing that actually mattered, an emotional connection with another man that had been growing for months. This is the genius of selective honesty. It gives you just enough truth to keep you calm while hiding the truth that would set off every alarm. It feeds you scraps of transparency so you feel guilty for wanting the full picture. Real honesty flows both ways. It doesn't feel like an interrogation. It doesn't make you feel bad for asking. If she's open about things that make her look good but shuts down when questions touch on her actual behavior, that's not vulnerability. That's strategy. So now let me give you the one principle I promised at the beginning. The thing that protects you from all 4 of these phrases. Don't argue, don't chase, just watch. Because actions never lie. When she says she's tired, don't fight about it. Watch instead. Does she still seek small moments of connection, or has she withdrawn completely while suddenly investing in her appearance for everyone else? That contrast tells you everything. When she says she needs to focus on herself, don't beg for inclusion. Observe. Does her growth bring you closer, or does it require your absence? When she calls you controlling, don't get defensive. Ask yourself honestly, was my question unreasonable, or was it basic? If it was basic and she still attacked you, that's not about your behavior. That's about what she's hiding. When she talks about honesty, don't get swept up in the promise. Watch whether transparency actually flows both ways, or whether you're the only one being examined while she carefully curates what she shares. And here's the most important thing I can tell you. Trust your instincts. Your intuition isn't paranoia, it's information. Your subconscious notices tiny shifts in tone, in energy, in how she looks at you. Things your conscious mind hasn't fully registered yet. When her words sound logical, but something in your chest feels heavy, trust that feeling. That's your internal radar, and it's telling you something important. Let me bring this together. We've walked through 4 phrases that sound reasonable, but signal something deeper. I'm tired really means her desire is redirecting away from you. I need to focus on myself really means she's creating distance while calling it growth. You're controlling really means she's deflecting basic questions by attacking your character. We should be honest really means selective transparency designed to keep you exposed while she stays protected. And if you only remember one thing, remember this. The right person will never make you feel like you're investigating your own relationship. She won't make you question your sanity for wanting closeness. She won't punish you for asking normal questions. She won't hide behind the language of personal growth or honesty while keeping you in the dark. She'll make love easy to recognize, not impossible to prove. Your real power isn't in arguing or chasing or demanding answers. It's in watching, in trusting what you see, in walking away calmly and confidently when someone's actions contradict every word they're saying. That's how you protect your time, your heart, and your peace. So here's what happens next. If this helped you see something clearly that was confusing before, share it with someone who needs this perspective. Because manipulation survives in silence, and clarity spreads when people talk openly about these patterns. You're not alone in navigating this. Men everywhere are learning to trust what they observe instead of just what they're told. And that shift from listening blindly to watching carefully changes everything. Stay sharp, stay aware, and never let anyone convince you that confusion is the same thing as love.